Welcome to Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda. I'm your host, Lashonda Counsel Rogers. In each episode, we have authentic and entertaining conversations about the impact of the law on women. You can find this show on my website, www.thecounselfirm.com, and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. Now, please join me in Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda. We are doing something very special today, and it's because you asked for it. Now, we had Miss Jill Scott of Nationwide DNA Services on as a guest a couple of weeks ago, and you all had so many questions about her DNA services and about DNA, paternity, and the like. And so I decided, don't email me questions. Let's just talk to Jill Scott again. So welcome, Miss Jill Scott. You are the first repeater on the series.
Oh,
welcome back.
I'm so excited. I am so excited that I'm the first repeater.
Yes, you are the first repeater.
We can do it all year. I mean, because there's so much to learn about DNA. There's so much to learn about testing and how DNA every 5 years, it sort of kind of, it's just like technology. It's technology and science. Thumbs up to the STEM programs. Okay.
Gotcha.
So DNA is always a story to tell.
So for the viewer who did not catch the original episode, tell us a little bit about Nationwide DNA Services and tell us what you do.
Okay. So Nationwide DNA Services is based in, we call it Rockdale, but it's Atlanta, Georgia. We've been around for 22 years. We've had sister companies, Right Choice Paternity. We've always had a sister company. We started out on the radios in Atlanta, all the local networks, just to get the word across, because there was so many cases and so many dads at that time that we found out were not offered DNA testing in the state of Georgia for child support. So because it was a personal issue between my own family, the own men in my family, we said, you know what? Let's see how many men this really affects. But once we got into it, we realized every 7 to 8 years, it's more women requesting the test. And those women go as far as the mothers of the children, the wives, the fiancés, the grandparents, you name it. So now everything changes. So that's how we got started. It was a personal thing, happened with my personal family, happened with myself. Y'all know that. Happened with myself back in 1997. So we're still up and going.
Okay. So the last time, you were very transparent about your personal story. So I don't want to go through that again, but let's talk about, and I'll tell you some of the comments that I got. Okay. They were from people who may have had a spouse or a significant other, someone who they were involved with, trying to do things to trick a DNA test. So tell us about some of the stories, and I guess they're not stories for you, the reality of some things that come to you regarding DNA testing.
Okay. Without me breaking any code or HIPAA or whatever, I will give you an example of something that I can't say the names, but there is a rapper out there now, that a young lady, and I know if there's any younger people out there listening, y'all know who I'm talking about. Can't say names, but that is my sister company out in Los Angeles, Canova Park. Okay, so this young lady, for example, she tried to cheat the DNA by posting a DNA report. It has over probably 18 million views right now. Okay. I was sent the report, and within 5 seconds, I could tell it was a fake. Like they sent it to me. Oh, it's not even real. 5 seconds. Why can I tell?
Wait, okay. So what was so glaring that in 5 seconds you knew it was a fake?
In 5 seconds from looking at a DNA report, you have to look at the labs that they use, because there's your lab should be AABB accredited. even though this was an AABB accredited labs, there are things you have to look for with these labs. You know, there's a list of AABB accredited labs on aabb.org. That is a website. We are in partnership and under the umbrella of these labs. You cannot just walk into these labs in the state of Georgia. You cannot walk into the labs in a lot of states. You have to actually go through a partner or through the state to get the testing done, especially on a legal basis. So let's talk about a legal basis, because this was considered a legal test. When you're doing a legal test, I can tell in 2 seconds your font size is not correct. So you wouldn't know that. The average eye wouldn't know that. But an average person that runs their own company, the font size doesn't match. Okay. The lines don't match. Okay. Was it in a different language? That doesn't matter. It can be in Spanish. It can be in English. That's the choice. But when it comes down to it, if you look at the very bottom of a report, if you are African American, let's say, for example, not this case, but if you are African American and that report says a man of Caucasian, we already know you cheated. We already know you copied and pasted. If you are African American and the report has a whole different name at the bottom as opposed to the name and the font size, we know you cheated that test as what this test did. Okay.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Yes, I'll tell you. So as far as men trying to cheat it, this is why I always tell my callers. I get a lot of calls from women. As far as the men trying to cheat a DNA test, that's a whole different level. So when men try to cheat it, and I would say 90% of our cases, it's not the men, it's the women.
Wait a minute. Okay, hold on.
Not the men. It's the women.
So is it women not wanting someone to be their father, or I guess trying to choose? Just explain. I'm going to stop interrupting.
It's women. It's the baby mothers cheating the test. It's rarely a dude. I only had one dude in 22 years that tried to cheat a test. One. Okay, just one in my 22 years. But it's mostly women, the baby mamas. They're the ones that's trying to cheat the test. They're the ones that will actually show up in court with their test. And lo and behold, I'm walking in, because you're not going to come in court on my company and think I'm not going to walk in. I say, hello. You know, they see me and they like, why she look familiar? Oh, yeah, because now I got your photo. That's why that's required for legal. I have your ID at the time. That's required. I have a legal document, email. So all I tell the judge is, ask her to email you the report that we emailed her.
Oof.
They can't do that. The lines are crooked. Everything's just, and sadly, most of my moms that have cheated the test were highly educated women, nurses, teachers. I had one that was an attorney. They just tried to cheat the test. You can't cheat the test. You can't pick and choose who you want. But they have tried it millions of times. Okay. So how do they cheat it? They try to cheat the report itself.
Okay, the report itself, like a Photoshop cut and pasting.
Right. But in this case, for example, let's go back to the original case I'm talking about without saying the rapper's name. She tested the original father, but changed the name to what she wanted the name to be. But at the bottom of that report, the original father's name was on there. But at the top of the report, the other guy's name was on there. So you got busted. Millions and millions of views. We didn't have to say anything, but I like to throw that out there. You cannot cheat the DNA. You can try. What other ways do they cheat DNA? If you buy a DNA from the store, and I tell the mothers all the time, well, it was a zero, Miss Guy, and I know for sure he is the father. Okay, so did you guys do it together? Well, yes. Who shipped it? He did. Did you ship it together? No. So when he shipped it, he can change it. He can alter it. He can do anything he wants. He can swap somebody else. It's just that simple. So that's why store-bought DNA, that people go, oh, I could get a store-bought DNA for $34.99. Really? No, you still have to pay shipping fees, and you still have to pay what we call lab fees. Still going to cost you about the same, but they're not legal. There's no notary on the bottom of those reports. Now, let's fast forward. I want to go over what the newer generation, I got to give them a hands up for the newer generation, because the newer generation, every time they get older and younger and smarter, the lab has to go in, all these labs have to go in and redo the things that they used to do. So you used to be able to get a kit from the store, do the DNA testing, get it back. Your names are on the reports. Today, most labs are omitting the names. They do not come back with names. I'm thinking, why would these reports not come back with names on them? And who would trust that? There's no names on there. So the mother's name is not on there. The baby's name is not on there. The alleged father's name is not on there. It's just a report with either a 0 or 99%. There's a physician's signature and the lab. So I call up my company, my lab. What's going on? Why, when they go into the store out the same company, there's no names? They said, because these mothers or these people have started putting names of who they want it to be. Think about that. Those are on the knowledgeable, non-legal ones. Anytime you order a test through the email, or you order a test, or you walk into a store and get it, those are called knowledgeable, non-legal DNA tests. But people don't know that. They don't. You would think that after 20-something years, since 1989, they will know the difference between a legal and a non-legal, but they don't. So when they walk in the store, pick it up and swap themselves, send it in. Okay, so who is mainly tricking it? Once again, baby mamas. So let's just say you got a husband. She messed around with your husband. She writes in his name, tests the real baby daddy, because real baby daddy's not paying attention, puts her information in there, sends it off, report comes back with your husband's name. It is a PDF email. She prints it out, sends it to your wife. Now you looking dumbfounded because you do know you was with her. It's a possibility it might be your baby, but you saying to your wife, I didn't test. But now you have admitted that you was with her, with your wife. So now these companies are saying no more names on these reports. Who's doing that? What is it? Gen Z generation? These are the generations of like 20, 21 through like 20, 26, 27, the millennials, that generation. They're the ones that's cheating it the most.
Wow. So what you're saying is these store-bought tests, they're pretty much for informational purposes only, even though it may not be accurate information. You can't use that to do anything.
You can't use it to do anything. It's just for knowledgeable. So we had to open our office back up as far as accepting those type of tests. Because if you're going to get a knowledgeable test for just purposes only, you still might as well get it done the right way. And what's that? Come to our office. We'll still do it. There's no photo. There's no ID required. There's no paperwork required, such as what we call a COC, a chain of custody, which means a legal document. None of that's required. But they will trust an agent doing it, swabbing it, sending it in. You still have to be careful what company you choose, because you got to do your homework. You got to really do your homework. You don't know who it is. I mean, I'm on Google, so you know who I am. Lots of times when these tests comes back 0, I hear it all the time. Miss Scott, are you sure? Miss Scott, it must have been switched up. Miss Scott, no. This is not General Hospital. This is not Young and Restless. This is not
Young. They don't know about General Hospital and Young and Restless. It's like,
all right. This is not what's these reality show? You want me to reality? Reality is he's not the father, sweetheart. Now, they still turn around on an illegal because these baby daddies are not thinking. Number one, you signed the birth certificate. Number two, she still support. Now you got to go fight it through the state. Just do another test. And if he ignores the court order, I already know, these attorneys already know out there, if he ignores the court order, he is the father by judgment default. So now you're on child support for a baby that's not even yours. But you have to handle your business. You have to handle your business the right way. So I would say do it the right way. Now, who does non-legals mainly? Who really does them? People that are, older children. Older children do it with alleged fathers. And how are they finding these alleged fathers? 23andMe. You out on 23andMe, you're like, wait a minute. This is saying my family is over here and not over there. So let's say you're like 55, 56. You say, Mom, this is connecting me to a family's last name by the last name of Smith. Mama, 80 years old, just, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. No, it's saying I have all these cousins. 23andMe is amazing. It's got all these people listed. Like, this is not showing any of my cousins, any of my siblings, Mom. But I know these people because they went to school with me. Lo and behold, what are they doing? They on social media looking up these people. They can actually respond on 23andMe. So then we are the final dot connector. They end up coming to us and they're saying, I found out I might have a son that's 40 years old from every walks of life. They do the DNA test with us. Bam. Never knew.
It's interesting you should say that because someone contacted me on Facebook, but it wasn't 23andMe. I think it was ancestor.com or something like that.
Same connection.
Yeah, and they were talking.
23andMe runs a special around Christmas, but when it was COVID time, they run a special around Christmas time, $69.99. Everybody gets it for Christmas gifts. It's always going to be a younger person that's not so sure, and there's always somebody else that did it. So it connects you with all these people. These people are connected, so you can start emailing them and texting them. Hey, you're where? You're in Tennessee. Hey, you're here. Now you go back to your mom. Let's say your mom's still alive. Mom, what's going on? She's just like, no. Yes, DNA don't lie. People lie. DNA don't.
Yeah. Well, let me clear up this story before my mom who's watching this probably like, well, why did you clear? So it wasn't, the person who contacted me was about an uncle of mine that was her grandfather. And she was just trying to get the family tree together. And it was kind of like, it was really scary because I was like, who is this lady? But she was dead on. She was dead on. She was telling me about my grandmother, her brothers, and this, that, and the other, and how she thought someone else was her grandfather. But then I was like, whoa. So, I mean, I didn't even say anything. I was like, well, hey, cousin, it's fine.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I will put little things on my Facebook, little stories, that I'll share it. We always get some people to say, oh, that's because the moms today, they're just so. No. Number one, I am a non-judgmental. We're not going to do that because I'm quite sure it's happened since the biblical days. Listen, your mama, your grandmama's mama. Why do you think all these kids just popped up in certain families back in the day? Like, who is this? Oh, this is just your cousin. It's really not your cousin. It's because the mom probably had a mental breakdown back then. They didn't want to call it what it was. And they took in this kid. And you called it a cousin. It's really not your cousin. It's really your brother. Okay? So time goes on, and so I don't, the rule of, hey, first cousins can marry first cousins. I think they really need to make sure they are first cousins first and not really siblings.
Oh, brothers. Yeah.
Get married. So if you look at certain states and counties, it is legal to marry your first cousin. But you probably want to make sure that's not your brother or your.
Well, that's your brother, but not your
You might
brother.
want to make sure. You
Yes.
might want to make sure.
Oh my goodness. So sometimes what happens is that, of course, I'm an attorney, and I do personal injury, but people think attorney, you do everything. And there was a young man, I was handling his case, and there was a young lady that was pregnant at the time that was claiming that he was the father of her child. And he had doubts. He had a lot of doubts. And he was so afraid to ask her for a DNA test because he didn't want her to get mad and upset about it. So help us help this other young folks figure out when they're in that situation, because he's like, I have doubts, but I don't think she's been with anybody else. I don't want to upset her and then she leave. Talk to her, because I'm sure you get a lot of that.
The most sensitive people towards DNA testing tends to be the fathers. Once they have established a bond, especially a bond, I bond with a baby first 5 minutes coming to my office. I do newborns, by the way. Okay, so they're so afraid to ask because they're connected to the mom too. They love these moms. They don't think that they would ever have done something like that. But fathers out there, I want you to understand, you don't need mothers' permission, and you don't need mothers for the DNA testing. Now, mothers know they're not needed, but for some reason, dads don't know they're not needed. You just get the baby if you can, and you test the baby. You don't need the mom. You don't need her. You don't even need to ask her. Just try and get the child. Now, a lot of cases, dads cannot get the children because moms straight out refuse. Like, this baby is connected to the hip. You not get this baby less. I am with you every step of the way. Why do they do that? Because they know. So how do we get a lot of testing done without the moms? We test them on Sundays. We test them on Sundays. Mothers have no clue that a DNA company is open on a Sunday. Now they do. Okay. We test them on a Sunday. Our truck drivers, our people that are so busy, they get the little boy, little baby, bring them in to us. We're going to test them. Where can we test? We're a mobile agent. We can ride up and test you anywhere. That's how mobile I am. Being careful. We're a mobile agent. We don't deal with cash. We don't deal with things like that. You've got so many ways to do it. You got so many ways to determine. And picking on top of what you just said, you've got a group of men that are afraid. Let's talk about the group of paternal grandparents whose sons are saying, it's my baby, stay out my business. Mom, stay out my business. But his mom is like, I just want to make sure, son, from the moment this young lady got pregnant, it doesn't matter if she's someone he met yesterday. It doesn't matter if it's someone he met, of course, 9-10 months ago. It doesn't matter if it's his wife. His mama's like, I don't know. There was a lot of infidelity going on. My son was doing things. She was doing things. I want to make sure it's my grandbaby. How can I do that, Miss Scott? You have access to the grandbaby? Well, sure. It's called grandparentage. You can test the baby with you. That's your son. Did you give birth to him? Yes. Did you adopt him? Now, you can't have adopted your son.
Right.
You have to have given birth to your son. That's my son. Okay. Test the baby against yourself. It's the best $300 to $400 you can spend. It will determine this is your grandchild.
What?
So a lot of people don't know that. Okay. A lot of people really don't know that. How are we going to do that? How are we going to, it's going on and on and on and on and on. Okay. So these sons are so connected. They're so connected to their women
Yeah.
Now, when that report comes back, is either 0 or a 75% or above that you are related to this child by grandparentage. Those
Wow.
tests can go knowable or legal. I only take it as illegal if they got a court order, to be honest. Okay,
Wow.
we'll get into that later. But on a knowledgeable one, they still want us to do it. We'll still do it. True enough, grandmamas are right. The majority of the time, they're not even their grandkids. And
I
these
just can't
grandmothers
imagine.
are not 80 and 90 anymore. They're like in their 40s. These are young grandmothers
Yes.
in their 40s.
Yes.
They're young. You cannot outsmart these younger grandmothers. They are not falling for your game. Okay.
But I just can't imagine the conversation that you as grandmother or grandfather have with your child and say, this little baby that you love and bond with is not yours.
Oh,
And if
it's been bad.
ugh,
Okay, so let me share this with you. When people say, Miss Scott, this is calls we get. So let's go into the calls. Let's go into the entertainment part. Hi, Miss Scott. This is so. I need to know how much your test is for prenatal. They don't really know the word. They'll just say, I'm pregnant. Okay, you're pregnant. Okay. That's gonna run you 1,800. Oh my God. Oh my God. Now, the majority are going to pay it. I don't ask where they get the 1,800 from.
yeah,
I don't ask where they get the money from. That's not my business. They
right.
get it. And let me tell you why they get it. They get this money because, when I'm talking to them, when they call my company, I'm just not a person to say, hey, it's 1,800. How would you like, which credit card would you like to use? I break it down. Probably why you would want to do it. Number one, this generation is totally different. You guys are having all kinds of things. You're having gender reveal.
Yeah.
That's co-ed. You're having 3 or 4 baby showers. That's co-ed. He's got to be in the delivery room. That's priceless. He's going to sign a birth certificate. That can cost or not. Now the report comes back. He ain't even a daddy. What did he spend? What he going to spend to even get his name off the birth certificate? I wish you can get some of these attorneys on here because they're going to tell you their fee, and it's in the thousands. So you could have paid 1,800 and found out while she was 7 weeks pregnant, or you could spend 10, 15,000 before the baby's born. Let's not talk about who paid for the baby hospital bill. That's not even included. Okay. So yes, prenatal testing is something that's highly requested because you've got husbands that had affairs with a side chick. You've got wives that had affairs on their husbands. They got to make sure it's not Woody's baby versus their husband's baby. And yes, I too. Hey, it is what it is. They are going to test it.
Jewel, once again, our time is up. This goes by so fast.
It does.
Okay, so you may have to be a three-peater, okay? You just may have to be, because there are so many questions that I need answers to. And we all need answers to. So we're going to have you come back. So I was saying, okay, you're the person who's a repeater. You're going to have to be a three-peater. That's just
I will be a three-peater. We can do this all the time because once again, you can never go over how many times and what people need for DNA testing. But I hope I answered some questions.
Yeah.
What you can do, from siblingships to grandparentage, you can determine who the baby daddy is. You can determine if they have the same dad. Okay. Technology and science changes. Shout out to the STEM programs. It really does.
All those people going into these STEM programs.
Thank you. To give the money to them because trust me, it changes every 3 to 4 years.
Wow. Okay. So Jewel, how can our viewers find you?
Well, they can find me. Number one, I'm called Nationwide DNA Services. Google is the best way to find Nationwide DNA Services. We are nationwide. We can test you anywhere. You can even get your babies tested out of the country. Okay, we'll show you how to do that. We're connected to, even if you need it for immigration purposes, we can still do the immigration testing. Okay, so we're Nationwide DNA Services. We are nationwide. We have sister companies. My son runs his own company in El Paso. We even teach how to open up your own business. So we'll get on that next conversation. And I can be reached at 877-362-6450 or locally 678-862-8854.
Awesome. But as always, thank you so much. But again, we're going to have you come back. But to all the viewers, continue to text and email me your questions. I promise Jewel will be back to answer them because you all blew me up last time. So I welcome you to do it again because although we're trying to entertain, we need to educate as well. And a lot of y'all will walk around with false information. So Jewel, until next time, thank you again. And for everyone out there, continue to watch Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda. Take care.
Thank you, Lashonda. Bye.
You've been tuning into Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda. In each episode, we have authentic and entertaining conversations about the impact of the law on women. I hope you'll join me each time. You can find this show on my website at www.thecounselfirm.com and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. We appreciate your positive comments and reviews. And don't forget to share this show with others. I've been your host, Lashonda Counsel Rogers.